things. We've been told to worry about things and worry about this and the shiny objects and getting on the hamster wheel of debt. And we don't realize we hamstring ourselves and we worry about little things that we shouldn't be worried about while the world around us is being destroyed by those that keep us in our own little prisons. We built the walls for ourselves and we keep ourselves in these little cages, and we don't have to do that anymore. I'm telling you that. Set yourself free. Live free. Drink some of the most amazing, fruit in a bowl. But they told us that the Campbell's soup pencil drawing from Andy Warhol is art. I want to say this to you guys out here, and I want you to listen to this. This is what I was telling everybody. It says, keep your boots laced up. I had that in quotations this week. Keep your boots laced up, okay, this week. We will have a few things popping off. Red flags will be coming fast. TheJimPriceShow.com is the website. So TheJimPriceShow.com is the website. Jim Price at TheJimPriceShow.com is my email. Remember the 10% you do for your neighbor, your community, city, county, state, the federal government. The more you do for them, the less they have to do for you. So learn how to be selfless and not so damn selfish. There will be a far better place. Oh, that's us.
You're listening to The Jim Price Show.
My name is Logan.
Be on air, right?
And I'm listening to The Jim Price Show.
Yeah, focus. All right. I'm Jim Price, the Jim Price Show Daily Update. I do appreciate you guys all tuning in. It is October 18th. It's a Tuesday, 2022. So thank you guys so much for being here. This is the same old stupid crap going over and over again. Which way are you guys going to fall into the pit of despair, meaning that we're going to have nuclear war, nuclear winter, we're going to have a cold winter, we're all going to die. I mean, the leading cause of death is birth. So what you do between then and then is up to you. I don't know, guys. I see all the fear-mongering they're doing to us right now, and it's just absolutely amazing. We should be smarter than this, and we have to be. I do have a special guest with me today. I got him to jump on the horn with me last minute. He was a great patriot for doing that for me. Sure. But I'll let Yori, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Jim, thank you so very much, everybody. Hi. I am a kind of new old shiny spoons to stir up the pot of what that's going on right now. I'm running for Congress here in Brooklyn, New York, no less, against the second most powerful person in U.S. Congress, Mr. Hakeem Jeffries. I get calls from everybody and anybody saying how much they hate him and why they hate him, and basically it all boils down to that he's more than a rubber stamp politician. He's more like a pipeline, to direct the Washington Washington talk, Washington propaganda, Washington style of ideas, frankly socialist and communist, right. To New York. He's just doing what Washington wants, like everybody else, top to bottom. I mean, not the very bottom, because we have honest people that have things going here still. Right. So New York is working. New York is not hungry, mostly, working mostly, officially or unofficially. It's another question, but the city is kind of buzzing and kind of coming back to life, but no thanks to the politicians. Not a single solution made to bring New York back to prosperity.
Well, and you're talking about, and so you're saying New York State as a whole, but New York City. Do you live in New York City? Is that where you represent?
I am in the dark underbelly of Southern Brooklyn.
So you're a lesser than
Brighton Beach Avenue. Have you ever heard of it?
You're over there. Sorry, you're not.
Yeah, by the sea.
Not Central Park. I get it.
No.
And telling by your accent, you must be from Alabama, right? So you have.
Yeah, pretty close, Uzbekistan.
There you go. Spelled exactly the same. So.
Doesn't get any closer.
Yeah. So how long you've been here? What was your history on that?
I came here in 1996. Mm-hmm. My family is originally, my parents were evacuated during World War II from Ukraine, speaking broadly, and Odessa and Kiev suburbs, being more precise.
Right.
And my grandfather went to fight Nazis, and his wife, my grandmother, she took the family of, I think, 10 people, put them on one how they call it, very, very inconveniently arranged railroad car,
Mm-hmm.
and boom, about I would say 2,000 miles later, they found themselves in Uzbekistan,
Wow.
which is north to Afghanistan. If anybody remembers here what Afghanistan and where Afghanistan is,
Wow.
still, but it was pretty far away, and they continued their lives there, and the place was pretty hospitable. They still practice their particular brand of Islam, which allows most men drink liquor,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just not it's not being kind of very despised by everybody else. But although after certain events, when Soviet Union fell apart, say in 1991,
Mm-hmm.
there's some fundamentalist strain became more and more obvious there.
Right.
But it was pretty secular, and my parents met there, and they produced me, and boom. And yeah, a big fat part of the family, meantime, of my dad's family was here in the United States. They started coming here in the beginning of the 20th century,
Mm-hmm.
based again in Brooklyn. And writing letters, I was very keen on English language. So I was writing letters to my relative here, a man who also served in World War II. So I asked him about the life in the United States, and he sent me his daughter's LPs, like the Beatles, what I was into that at the time.
Right.
So I lived with the feeling that eventually I'll end up here. So back in the Soviet Union, I grew up as into a screenwriter.
Wow.
So I was writing movies, and the movies were not blockbuster. Would be something what you would call an art house movies,
Right.
but it was time of perestroika when it was possible for a Jewish man not to write propaganda movies. It was the case before, but to do something that wouldn't be allowed like 15 minutes before perestroika
Right.
began. So little films that I made were played in the Louvre Museum. They were played in MoMA in New York.
Wow.
They became some sort of a, avatars of perestroika, what's going on, how things changed, and it was used for, of course, the new Russia's Russian Federation. The country was known after that propaganda, which was good propaganda. Say it
Mm-hmm.
was before Putin's
Right.
time. So I
Well.
was part of it, and I built a little career, and then I started making documentaries because the Soviet whatever was left of Soviet Union of the film distribution system was falling apart. So I started my own company, and I was hired by the UN to go to Afghanistan and film documentaries about the refugees in the camps.
Mm-hmm.
There was a civil war in Tajikistan, and a part of the population who was so it was civil war. So part of the population was Wahhabis,
Right.
actually, the bad guys. They were pushed to Afghanistan, and they were settled there in the field. And the UNHCR, High Commissioner for Refugees, was helping them to survive there until the fighting would subside in the homelands. So then they facilitated the return, and they thought it would be good to make documentaries to show both sides what's going on, and that it's safe to return. So I had an adventure of a lifetime, and my life is a little bit rich over, I mean, above our average,
Right.
that sort of thing. Adventures of a lifetime, and I'm going now through my. I don't know if it's the last one, but adventures of a lifetime running
Yeah.
for Congress here.
Well, that's
And
called 1,000 paper cuts to your soul. At least you know where your enemy's shooting from because they have a gun in their hand. This politics stuff is really dirty.
yeah, but you know what? I'm doing. It's a great trip of self discovery. What I see here, what I hear from people here, and say. A lot of people think, especially here in Brooklyn, a lot of people are self-styled politologists, politicians, strategists, this and that, and they say, for example, don't try to wake up, the African American population here, because if you don't tell them that they have to vote like on November 9th, that would be the guidance for a lot of people. And the election is November 8th, as everybody knows. So everybody will vote Democrat. You'll talk them into, coming, registering and voting and going to the voting poll sites, and then they'll vote Democrat. But you walk them up.
Well, so now wait, isn't that exactly like what they say oppression is that you're not going to bother to give them information that they can cycle themselves to make a better decision? I mean, they're saying don't wake them up. I mean, it's like when you think about that, it's like that, and that's just someone else trying to keep them. Is that right? Is that what they're saying?
I'll tell you more. I absolutely agree with you, Jim. But I'll tell you more. What they yell about, like a stuck pigs. They yell about voter intimidation and voter ID laws. And how do you call this intimidation that's going on in the mainstream media, where they insist and talk about the January 6th and people being arrested and all those raids and people being stopped and so many people like Rudy Giuliani having hard drives confiscated for
Right.
nothing.
Yeah.
What's all this if not voter intimidation? People are afraid to put yard signs up here in Brooklyn.
That's very true.
Yard signs. There's not too many yards in Brooklyn. If somebody is not aware of that,
right.
There's just buildings, but some people have yards, and they're afraid. And if you look into it deeper, you see those people, they have yards, they have houses, their own houses, and they are not owners of their own souls.
Right. When you said Stroika, I don't mean to go way back. Perestroika. Yeah. What was that specifically?
It was Gorbachev's speak.
Okay.
It was something that what we have so far, said he in 1986, is something that is not totally bad. The Soviet Union with Stalin and gulags and God knows what else was this propaganda machine and all this spying all over the world. There's no question about that they were doing it from like day one of after they came to power, the Bolsheviks.
Right.
They used the Comintern, they used the International Communist International Organization, and we are all seeing the fruits of the fruits right now of what they used to do and what they built around the world. And Putin inherited it hook, line, and sinker, the whole thing.
Right.
But he said that part of it is good. We just got to build what is called the socialism with the human face.
Yeah. Well, think about that. It's everything you've said so far is just everybody lying to everybody about everything. Is that did I stretch that too far? Everybody's lying to everybody about everything. I mean, we can't just tell you the truth that I want to rule your life. Why do we have to be lied to be so? If you're gonna just rule with an iron fist, just tell me.
Not only this. What kind of gets my goat? It's we have a lot of it in American life today, and I'm very careful about not giving any weapons to Russian propaganda, because they pick up trends, about what we speak here, criticizing our own country, and they spin it, like there's no tomorrow. And they make thousands lies of it, and they throw it back into the ringer. And and they pick them up in the mainstream media, and we start talking about it again and again. But it's already spiked with their interests, because they no question that they benefit from the chaos that has been the Western civilization for last, I don't know, 20 years or something.
Okay, so I know you're running for office, and we're talking about geopolitical stuff here, which is, again, I love this stuff. I mean, I wish we talked about it more over. I know it doesn't seem like coffee talk table stuff, but we should, coffee table stuff we should be talking about, but we really should be talking about this. When you look at the things that you've seen, like China and India and Russia coming together under one currency, what do you take from that, from your experiences? Is this a different type of what are we finding out here? Because India is not communism, right? They have a aristocracy problem. They've got a class problem. They have class warfare. But then Russia is obviously Russia's not completely communist the way China is. I mean, so we got these three different levels of types of societies. What do you see this as? What is your take on that?
Of those three countries that you mentioned, the most self-sufficient country is India, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
most self-sufficient, because they they're most ancient of those three as a land. They're most established. China is very old, but India is even older than that.
Right.
And it's rich in culture. And unlike China, it's also got early on from the days of Alexander the Great, who reached India. He actually went. Can you imagine the distance they have to walk and conquer? And he died with he was 36. So he was like really the giant among men, obviously. So he went there and he saw the seeds of Western civilization there. Believe it or not, all those sculptures starting from Kama Sutra, and stuff like that. They all inspired and formed by Western culture, Greek culture, things like this. So that's important thing to remember.
Right.
China is more dependent on the West because of this thing that we have here made in China. They have to sell it someplace.
Right.
And nobody buys more Chinese tchotchkes than the United States.
Right. Well, and they also buy Northeast Arkansas is the number one rice producer in the world. We export rice and soybean to them by the metric ton all day long. So they have to have us to feed them.
Self-sufficiency.
Yeah. Well, they can't grow their own crops. They can't maintain their own stuff. They've polluted their properties or their grounds so much that they don't have much. So.
Yeah, and Russia is the country that is most dependent, at least independent of them all, because they only have they are kind of one industry town, one the international gas pumping station.
Right.
So they provide hydrocarbons. They cannot, and it went through centuries. I don't want to disappoint people who love Russian ballet, but it was also imported from France.
Right.
And a lot of first time I was in Milan, I look at the Sforza Castle, and I saw Kremlin. And then I looked it up. It's two brothers, Fioravanti brothers. They built Kremlin.
Right.
Top to bottom, basically.
Isn't that amazing?
Plus, there were some Greeks who started Russian icons, famed icons. Theophanes, the Greek, was the first famous Russian painter who trained the most famous one, Andrei Rublev, of course. But it was the culture that was very heavily. He was started by the Vikings
Mhm.
in ninth century,
Right.
and then it was baptized by Viking again in 10th century.
Yeah.
So it was AD, and this is how Russia went by, and was the called the Vikings. Most countries actually were built like this, but they moved on.
Yeah.
They developed after that, but Russia remained dependent on foreign consumption and foreign input,
Right.
and this is something they decided to live without.
Now think
And
about that. That's. I mean, we really live. And we live in a world where we borrow from every society, but we say that our society is the best or better, and your stuff sucks. Like, I mean, you think about all the stuff that we put into our country. You know, our Chinese food is not Chinese food; it's American Chinese food. But we talk about how we're American, but then I mean, we've borrowed all this stuff from everywhere else. Obviously, America's a big example of that. But then there's other countries through the history of time, all the written history, we see that they took over this portion of this. We see the Romans took over this from them, and this, and so we see that constantly, but we don't talk about that in today like it's happening today. But we still do that.
yeah, it's like Pablo Picasso said, the talent borrows, genius steals. So, ingenious civilizations of the world, they were stealing everything that they liked, but not just in materials and then treasure and resources and slaves, etc., etc. They just stole the vision. They stole the way of life.
Right.
They used the ideas of civilization that they liked. The Romans loved Greek civilization. Greeks loved Egyptian civilization.
Right.
Egyptians loved Mesopotamian civilization.
Right.
So you go back through history and you see how people were just gobbling up all the best things that were created before them and putting them as a foundation for their own building, and whatever stood, successfully, that was merited with the name of civilization.
Mhm.
But that's how it went, and but people were never kind of slacking on work on their own projects,
Right.
because they borrowed things, that they stole things that were necessary to
Well, that's the path of
advance.
least resistance, right? I don't have to gain the technology understanding if I just borrow it, or just take it, or conquer you and take it.
Now it's different, of course, but during that time when there was no information network and basically no books, we're talking about before Johann Gutenberg, before books were printed. So people were just seeing it and taking what they liked, in terms of not necessarily kind of conquering it. Or robbing the nations of it, because you have no power. Greeks like came on the rafts, say
Right.
to Egypt, and they saw the sculptures that they built, huge sculptures. And at the time, Greeks had small sculptures they carried in a pocket. If you go to Athens, you go to any big museum, there's so many small sculptures for different, like votive stuff, small sculptures of warriors that they kept for protection. And they say, why don't we build huge ones like the Egyptians did? Huge temples, not the small ones.
Right.
So that's how they developed. History of art is my kind of,
So they were trying to
and-
keep up with the Joneses. You got big
Absolutely.
stuff. I want big stuff.
Absolutely. No vice was ever left out of the process of building civilization.
Right.
No vice at all. And we only enjoyed the kind of tastier bits of this whole process.
Right.
But there's a wonderful book called The Story of Art by Eric Gomberg. He used to be he was a Swiss Jew who was very talented in terms of telling stories. This is the most popular book on the history of art in the world, The Story of Art by Eric Gomberg.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote it, I think, in England, in the UK, when he had to run from Switzerland. I believe so. I haven't read his biography. I've read it a long time ago, but the book is very important. It allows you to think, and it allows you to argue with it, because you disagree sometimes. But in general, when you read it through, you understand that this is not as simple as any other textbook on history of art would tell you.
Right.
Very, very complex. And he said he's describing how art was ciphered and deciphered. Was say iconoclasts didn't want any images of God like they have today in Islam. There was same time in Christian history,
Right.
and Jews never liked the history of they never liked the images of gods or biblical stories after they came out of the Roman rule.
Mm-hmm.
Because during the Roman rules, they decorated absolutely. Synagogues were decorated like any Roman temple or Greek how they call it, drawing room. So there was very, very different from what we think of as Jewish art or Greek art. Or so it's just fascinating thing. I'm fascinated by the complexity of it.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I just want to talk about some of those things that kind of give us a history, because where we come from, I think is if we figure this part out, we know where we're going. We can see the repeating paths. We understand those things, and we just go down that path. And I wish we quit making the same stupid mistakes. I know we're at the end of an 80-year cycle. I know we have to hit rock bottom societal cycles that we're in right now. I know that's all part of it, but sometimes I just would like to skip a step. I was just like, let's skip the crappy part.
Understandably, of course.
And so that's why I was asking those questions. So for you, you're running in Brooklyn, and so what would be, let's say if I'm from Brooklyn, what are the landmarks of your district? Because it's going to be a lot smaller than, let's say, Kansas. Because our districts are huge here, because we just got, our population is less dense. So where are you at?
The place where I live, the area where I live, is called Shipshead Bay. Actually, Brooklyn is broken into areas, and not everybody. People mostly live in where they live, and they don't travel to the areas where, say, Pakistanis live, or where African Americans live, where Hispanics live. People meet where the business is conducted.
Right.
And it brings us to another landmark. I mean, the landmark number one, I would say, would be a famous Coney Island Luna Park.
Mm-hmm.
The first amusement park in America, I believe, and with the Wonder Wheel and the roller coasters, as famous Cyclone, which is over 100 years old, all this stuff, and people from all over the world come. We have on 4th of July, we have Nathan's hot dog eating contest. And it was my first outing, by the way, when I went in my red cap and red tie and the suit and started giving out people brochures to the people.
Right.
And it was a little bit documented by friends of mine. So it was very educational. I made my adjustments in my presentation after that. So it was kind of tough first skirmish.
Yeah. Well, and then
the white people were less. Yeah, go ahead.
You gotta maneuver that, right? Because everybody can't just hear what you have to say; they have to immediately attack you for whatever reason, right? So that's a bad part of it. What was it? So you're gonna say what were the people now?
The people who were kind of less receptive to my ideas, seeing my cap and my tie and my brochure and the MAGA, of course, on it, were so-called educated whites. Those people who came there, but the Chinese, the Spanish, the African Americans, they wanted to take picture with me, and they asked me questions, and I answered them.
Right.
And there were people, of course, the tourists from Switzerland again, from England, from Italy, and they came to me and they shook my hand. They said, "Guys, you got to win. It cannot go this way. We're suffering because what's going on in this country.
Yeah.
The world feels it much more than we do because they are not as rich as we are.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's the sad part is that we're the hope, right? We're what they can look to for hope,
Still.
and we're screwing it off. Like we're just like whatever,
We either
freedom.
one or we zero. You know, it's there is we're great or we are nothing.
Right.
That's the lot of this country.
Yeah. And that's a sad part of it there. So, all right. So you have the you got the two different points. What's the other points that you have for your district?
My district landmarks. We have lots of nature, believe it or not, in this area. We have some marshes. We have parks, and we have no architecture to speak of. We have the boardwalk, which is part of the Luna Park, and part of the Coney Island amusement park. It kind of goes along the coast, the beach, and it's interesting. I would direct everybody to see a movie called The Little Fugitive. It's from 1951. And this is a movie where you can see how everything used to work at the time, because it's a really remarkable movie. Got an Academy Award, I think, for screenwriting, and it was what became an independent movie. They didn't make too many of them then, but it's a family movie, by the way, and it's really engrossing and fantastically well made. It's black and white, but you can see how safe it used to be.
Right.
You can see how cheerful it used to be. Now it's all clouds of marijuana, and now it's a lot of today. They said there was someone got stuck with a knife on the boardwalk, and there were shootings and there was stuff like that. Although it's less dangerous, I would say, mostly, as they say these days. Mostly, how's it called? Mostly peaceful, right?
Right.
So it's mostly peaceful. People go about their business, and the prices for produce that you pay in Kansas is ridiculous to us. We pay much, much, much less because people find ways to get the stuff from the warehouses here, from the
a guy. I know a guy. You want something? I know a guy.
Yeah.
That's how it works, right? If you got a warehouse purchase, I know a guy, right?
Yeah. They rent a truck. They take like a refrigerator truck. Early in the morning, in the middle of the night, they go to a place where they have the produce for the best restaurants in the city, the best stores in the city, and they buy what's like there are some rules. I was told that if it's less than 3 months, 3 months before the expiration date, you have to get rid of it. You cannot sell it any longer. So this kind of stuff is high quality produce. I have no problem with that. I like to touch my tomatoes, if I may say so, before I buy them.
Yeah.
And the apples, it goes for everything. So in this regard, when I get to different places, somewhere away from New York, from Brooklyn, I just the sight of the price of produce is really painful.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that expensive. Shouldn't be.
Oh yeah. Well, and you think about that. I mean, we have the best steaks in the country, but we also you guys have some of the better seafood. So it's an even switch, right? So your seafood's great, but our steaks are amazing. So I'll have my steaks. I like steak more than I do the seafood, but that's all cultural stuff, right?
One of my campaign promises. We have a very funny situation. We have no local seafood. I'm a traveler. I love going to Europe. I love going to Mexico, and I enjoy local seafood. We have there, not here. Here, I have to find ways. I have to talk to the fishermen. I have to talk to people who have boats, who fish legally, who go like 50 miles away. And recently, I had a pleasure to obtain 50-pound, almost 50-pound tuna.
Wow.
Which I filleted myself on my small kitchen table.
Wow.
It was a project. It was like 3 hour.
So say, yeah.
From midnight to 3 o'clock in the morning. I had to fillet it, but that's fantastic. Nothing is better than that.
Oh,
tuna
yeah. No, that's awesome. right there. That's great. You got that done.
So my campaign promise was to open a restaurant if I win. There will be a restaurant that would use only local seafood, only local fish.
Right. Wow.
So that would be something that people would feel the difference right away.
Oh yeah. No, that's great that you're doing that. All right. So what is now the guy that is running is the second most powerful guy in the House? Is that what you're running against?
Yeah. Nobody knows him except when he comes out and he blasts President Trump, or he says that the Republicans doing this or that. But we have a good set of politicians that are really nasty, useless, like our current governor, who used to be lieutenant governor, and she became one when the first one was removed for improprieties, which were also.
What happened to all that? I mean, he just kind of went away after he got his acting. By the way, I've never seen a governor get an acting statue for his portrayal during a pandemic. That was a real nice touch to show us how serious the pandemic really is. Is that your governor got an Emmy, a little statue. Yeah. He got an acting award for the pandemic. How do you get an acting award if you're taking it serious? I mean, if this was a real serious pandemic.
The result for him was the process. Like the process is the punishment. We know this saying, right? So for him, it was very important. And I heard a lot of people, and I talked to a lot of people who have so impressed how presidential, if I may say so, he looked while delivering all this. And he was
Avenatti was presidential too, if I remember that right. So.
Yeah. In some eyes, yeah.
Very presidential. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So people are strangely, positioned towards the authority in these years at the time that we live in. The reverence for authority is just incredible, unless it's Donald Trump,
right?
And they genuflect like crazy. If you remember Obama years and stuff like that, people hungry for this authoritarian figure, and it's strange for me as someone who was not born here, and the scent is patriotic, in some cases.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're a victim of our own circumstance. We've kind of really screwed up what was a good thing in America because we did get ourselves caught up in the Hollywood and the music and the MK Ultra and the manipulation and the public education. All the niceties came back and bit our ass. I mean, really, the idea that we kept giving away. Well, when you give away too much, you can't stop feeding the bears, right? You feed the bears that keep coming back, and you feed them once doesn't mean that their appetite went away. Now they want more, and then they want more. Then they brought their friend, and I think through us not really having to struggle, especially in the last 100 years. I mean, we really haven't had to struggle. We've had some ups and downs, but really we've had it pretty good. We've always kind of keep progressing in ways that we shouldn't. And it's just because we keep handing it out. I think the handouts have got to stop. I think we got to be more self-sufficient, self-reliant, and believe in the Constitution is the only thing we need for our country, not more laws, but actually more freedom.
Yeah, smaller government, of course, would that be the answer to so many problems in our society. I thought up 7 points of my program, 7 issues put together on my website, yuri4us.com. You can have a 4 as a number, 4 as a word, yuri4us.com. And there are 7 issues that are that to me are most important. And basically it's all predicated on the existing structures that we have. So number 1 is law and order. Law and order is something that is fixable, believe it or not. We used to have it in Giuliani's time. Giuliani's still here. Bernie Kerik is still around. Ask those people how they did it before, twice.
Right. Yeah.
So bring back the police. Stop bashing the police. Stop writing all those.
And the police have got to come clean with their self too. I mean, they got to do their own laundry, and then we can, I think it's a two-man handshake there. I think the police coming together and saying, listen, we're gonna clean house. We're gonna get rid of what we know to be wrong. I mean, I said this on a TikTok a couple weeks ago. It's like, we all know that guy who shouldn't be on the forklift. We all know the girl who shouldn't be on the register. So you don't put them in there, but yet we all know who the bad police officers are. We actually have a list called the Brady Giglio list in Wichita, Kansas, that literally has all the police on there that cannot testify in open court because they've been caught lying. They have no credibility. But it's on a private tower with a photograph proof lens on it, and it's not hooked to the internet. There's no outside communication with it. There's only certain files and certain things on this one computer at the Wichita Police Department, and and we know that as citizens. We know that there's that, but they won't disclose to us who those officers are. And so right there, I mean, we got to be transparent. We got to be better than that.
Let's not get started on the FBI and DOJ in its current state, because that's the whole 10 volumes of modern history.
Oh yeah,
what they have become.
Yeah.
But basically, I think that the government should just come clean and say, listen, we need you. We need law and order.
Right.
And to hell with everything else. Forgive my cursing.
Yeah,
but we need you, and you need to be in the streets, and you'll be compensated properly. And you need to come back because you love Brooklyn. People really love New York. They really love, with all the dirt, with all the disorder, with all the chaos. But people keep, people stay here. It's very painful for a lot of people to leave, and they still leave it. It's a tax base, another 5 volumes of modern history, as people are escaping New York this time for states that are easier to pay taxes in, or less crime and better education, safer streets for the kids, better climate, less hysteria, all this.
Yeah.
But back to the law and order. This is something that that concerns everybody.
Right.
Because some people say, "Oh yeah," in New York especially, they feel so pious, so aristocratic. Oh, I don't have a car. I don't drive.
Right.
I use subway. You cannot use subway in New York anymore.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let my daughter. She just left yesterday.
I was there in 2016, and I didn't want to be on the subway. I was there. I was out there 2016. I was there for 4th of July, and I didn't even want to be on the subway. And it was the middle of the day. I'm a grown ass man. I don't like. Yeah. I didn't want to be down there. I'm like, man, this is not what And the sad part of it is that I don't know. To me, it seems like a lot of it just needs a damn power washer. It's not that the place is really that bad, but I don't know that they just forgot how to use a power washer and pick up some litter.
If anybody remembers the Zuccotti Park, the Occupy Wall Street situation, which was funny, I recall it often because it was a little park, on Wall Street, in Wall Street area, where a lot of people brought their tents, and it's like goes across the island of Manhattan, so people built their own. Shantytown, basically.
Right.
And it was interesting. There was when Jon Stewart was running his show, the Jon Stewart on the Comedy Channel,
right?
The Jon Stewart show. So there was one report that was very much against. Today they wouldn't they wouldn't air it. But there's a young journalist, a woman. She made a report how this little Zuccotti Shantytown, Zuccotti Park, Shantytown, Occupy Wall Street, became a copy of Manhattan. There were areas where there were poor people singing and smoking.
So society just does what society does, which is then just segregate back out. Yeah. You get the cool kids club. You got the rich people. You got the poor. You got the working.
Yeah, they got polarized. I went there a couple of times. There was in one end there was a tent.
We're all equal here, except for those guys and those people and that guy back.
They had the smart ones with the bicycle connected to espresso machine, and they were turning
the industrialist. Oh, what an industrialist! Oh, why are you industrializing our coffee machine? Like,
clicking on the laptops, etc. And the other part was kind of not wearing like horse masks and doing shamanism and bongo playing the weed and stuff like that. So one day cops came. It was those blessed times that we think were times of chaos when we lived through. And the guy who arranged all of it, one of the guys who arranged all of it, he had a room for $800 a night, overseeing this whole situation in a hotel from like 12th floor.
Well, he's struggling. You know, it wasn't the $900 night.
Yeah, it was very hard for him, but we understand his pain.
Yeah.
When cops came with this power washers and the machinery that would be appropriate for this, and they just removed it overnight. Overnight.
Yep. That's how you do it. You just move in, move out. And here's the thing. That's like I said. If they just got clean and everybody started really telling the truth, we would create almost instantaneously a trust and move things back to where we can communicate again, where we're not afraid. Because this is what I've said on the show. I don't have a problem with police officers. I got a problem with the police officers not getting rid of the bad police officers. And so I don't know which ding-dong's walking up to me. I don't know if I got a guy who's cool and he's going to keep the Constitution. He's not going to press my limits. He's not going to try to take my rights away. Or if I'm going to get the guy over here who's going to handcuff me because I'm trespassing on a public sidewalk. I mean, you don't know, right? And so once we get that, I think we will have a lot better deal. Kerry Heiserman, he says, ask him if New Yorkers seem to hate Trump. He built New York. What is your take from the people? Oh, let's say even Brooklyn, because that was his neighborhood, right? Brooklyn?
Yeah, that's where he started. There's Trump Village still. The people, I went there to talk to the people who live there because they listen to my YouTube streams in Russian.
Oh, wow.
Most of my YouTube streams are in Russian. I produced in the last 2 years, I made, I would say, 1,154 streams that I count as programs. And there are also like streams that have no number because as an interpreter, I'm an interpreter for the last 10, 15 years probably.
Good.
Work in courts, work with big corporations. Of course, it's Russian, English, English, Russian. And of course, it dried up after, certain events. Especially February 24th, the invasion of Ukraine, war in Ukraine.
Right.
So the business has stopped.
Who's Dan?
Yeah, so I started my stream. Yeah.
It says not guilty on all counts. Donchenko. Who's Donchenko?
Yeah. It's the guy who was the source for the Steele dossier.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's another thing. But the big question is, this guy was a double agent, so to speak, by his facial, features, with the way I can read his face.
Right.
In my right page of 62. But they
yeah, I got you. So,
but the thing with him that the more important thing why FBI went was this obviously fake thing to get the FISA warrant.
Right.
That's the big question. I hope they will address it. Hopefully after November 8th, when the Congress becomes Republican.
The whole problem with that is that an investigator has to go until they get 2 no's on basically every line of they have. So if we're going down this line, I got to keep going until I get 2 no's. Do you know anything about Jim? No. Do I know anything about Jim? No. Okay, stop that one. Okay, I'm gonna go over here. Do you know anything about John? Yes. Do you know? Okay, and you have to. So the problem is that I think the bucket's a lot deeper than what everybody believed. A lot of people thought they were going to go in, do a year's investigation, turn this around. But the problem is you got to think he's been ongoing for 5 years now.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Durham was preparing, and that's the case of over preparation in my opinion. But back to Trump.
Yeah, sorry.
I encountered very. You can call it tragic. You can call it tragic, comical situation wherever I go here in Southern Brooklyn, and starting with the Russian-speaking community, I come to them. They listen to my show in the neighborhood. It's surprising to me because I would think that people anywhere in the world could accidentally tune in and got hooked for whatever reason. I cannot imagine.
Right.
Or which one. But people in the neighborhood, they support my show, and they say, like, I went to the post office. I'm buying some stamps for whatever reason. And the guy, without looking at me, standing at the next window, he says, Yura, you go back to your microphone. What are you doing here? Go work.
He only knows you from the microphone. He can't,
Yeah. So he recognized me. I was not wearing my cap at the moment.
Right.
But back to Trump. A lot of people love him. Not just like him, love him. And if you go to we have this media representation. When Donald Trump said media is the enemy of the people, it was to Russians, it was like a very familiar slogan. You know, it was Stalin saying the enemy of the people, this and that. But you don't start smoking because Putin says smoking is bad, right?
Right. Right.
You just because he says so. There are enemies of the people. It's really a strong chamber, echo chamber, a strong amplifying device, worldwide. This mass media situation. So, and people are resisting it. They don't want to believe what they're told, and they voted for Donald Trump in 2020. They voted for him in 2016. They cherish his name, and most of the like middle age, I would say, younger ones, they are more brainwashed. They have to comply with the workplaces, which are of course uber liberal
Right.
in New York City, many of them, or they have to pretend to get government funding, and that's a big and part that is grooming people. Using the popular word today, people are groomed to be dependent on the government. I would say that I had this thing that I mentioned it. I went this last Sunday. We went to churches. We went to churches in black areas, Canarsie, East New York, Flatlands, and the first church that had the most white quotient, I must say, they were least receptive to my message. But the colored people, so using the old language,
Right.
they were more interested because they have this they not kind of obliged to they communicate with each other, and I don't know the reason, frankly. I don't want to fantasize, but they grabbed my flyers. I had a bunch of flyers here like this. They're very well made. I'm sitting here like I'm sitting before you. It says, people look at it, they say, oh, you're a Democrat. I say, it says Republican here. I'm wearing a red cap. The red cap says MAGA.
Right.
So what do you think after that? Oh, you're Republican. I never voted Democrat, people say.
Right.
So, and it was with everybody. After this church, the Roman Catholic Church, we went to a Creole church. And there are kind of rules, some etiquette. I try to not to barge in. People come for service. They dress up. It's a very special occasion. Right. Even the godless New York, I was discovering all those religious people everywhere I went.
Right.
And I went to synagogues, and tomorrow I'm going to mosque, and Friday I'm going to mosque to see people there, because we don't visit each other. We live in close quarters, and we try not to know anything about each other.
Yeah.
We protect our own kind of, not in my backyard kind of thing.
Right.
But people are willing to do the same thing, and I heard so many kind words about the people saying about President Trump and voting Republican this election. So I have great optimism.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I've seen, what I've really seen is that when you have people that are first generation or in these smaller communities, no matter how big the city is, but they're in these smaller communities, when they tell you, hey, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, their word is their bond, and they're very strict about that. And so I think it's great that you got that kind of feedback from these folks, that they're willing to, come up and fully engage you, and they're not giving you just, some talking points from women's health care and all that other stuff.
Yeah, like, nobody mentioned anything like that. It's only like people will have nothing to do. To say, and it's interesting. Not without the shouting matches, though. There was a guy is a very very colorful dashiki. You know what dashiki is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he yelled at me. He said, "You came here, you for Trump, and I hate MAGA. I love President Biden. We need unity." He told me. I said, "Listen, I live in Shipshead Bay. I came to you.
Yeah.
And you say that you want unity. Why didn't you come to me? Who came to whom?
Right.
Isn't it obvious? You're old man. I am kind of approaching your level of oldness. Think for yourself.
Yeah.
Who's seeking unity? So at that point, we parted our ways. But basically,
Well,
people
just
were
by
open
him
to
coming
further
up and
conversation.
saying I hate MAGA and all that other stuff, that's not creating any unity at all. Just
No,
by
exactly.
his attack of just, it's like, and I've had conversations. I do have friends that are big liberals, and I just listened to him. Like, I was like, can you? I mean, how? I asked him, like, how can you get to that point for me? How do you get there? And they can never give me the origin of their thought. They can never give me where they like, well, one day I was sitting under an apple tree, and gravity came to me by an apple hitting me on the head. They can't give you the conception. All they know is, my body, my choice. I'm like, okay, whoa,
Yeah.
what do you, so do I have to take that government chemical in my arm? Well, yeah, because you got to save Nana. Wait, hold on. Which way is it? Which way you slicing this bread? Because now we got croutons. You just keep chopping it up. There's nothing left. What are we doing here? And so, that's a sad part that guy couldn't just come to you and say, listen, man, I can't stand this stuff. I can't stand the freedom. I need government telling me what to do. And that would be more genuine than him just saying, I don't like the MAGA movement, because as far as I can tell, all that's based on freedom and liberty, and nothing has to do with creating more regulation. Trump was trying to pull as many regulations as he could off the books. And then what do we have? The immediate reversal with the new potato in chief. I mean, there's a real problem there. And potato in chief is a play on two words, pedo and a potato. Potato doesn't do anything but sit on a couch, and pedo. Anyway, you know how that one goes. But this is the world we live in, right? We can't just be damn honest about this stuff. I mean, we all got dumb. We've all done things. We've all thought we were making the best decisions. Some of them were mistakes. Some of them were great. And you know what? We're moving on. But I think we could do so much better to talk to each other, and we'd find out. I had one lady. I go to coffee at the same diner in the morning, and she's like, well, you're one of those conservatives, because she didn't want to call me a Republican. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, you don't want gays to marry. I said, if you want to enter into a government contract between you and someone you love, you go do that. Go get married all you want. I said, if you think it's so damn important for you guys to get married, I don't have a problem with it. Because again, I'm not getting in your way, but I'm not going to pay for your divorce. I'm not going to pay for your marriage. I'm not going to pay for any of your crap. If you want to go do what you want to do, then go do it, but don't involve me. Leave me out of it. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to know about your stuff, but I'm not paying for your school. I'm not paying for your programs. I'm not paying for your sex change. I'm not any of that stuff. You just go do you. Well, so you don't care? And I'm like, no, I don't care. Leave me alone. I just want you to go do you, and I do me, and don't get mad if I got guns laying around. Don't get mad if I got trucks that make big black smoke, okay? Just leave me alone, right? And we can't do that. But I watched a lady the other day. I told her, I said, 80% of women you have an 80% chance. A woman has an 80% chance of divorce if she gets a bachelor's degree. And she goes, well, that's great. And I'm like, it's great? Well, yeah, that way, she doesn't need a man. She can just go out and make her own money. And I said, well, but also in Black Law's dictionary, there's no word for insurrection. So they can't say that there was an insurrection on the Capitol building on January 6th. And she left. So
listen, I love a little saying, that I use often. You pick your nose, you pick your friends. If you decide on a certain pattern of behavior, don't be upset that people turn away.
Yeah. It's and the thing is, I didn't know that I was so racist and so polarized until everybody had to tell me I was. And it's like, you're barking up the wrong tree on this guy. I mean, I grew up poor, so I grew up on the government cheese, the white box cheese and the powdered milk that was in the Tide box. Remember when Tide came in a box? Do you remember that? Like the laundry soap came in a box. Anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. That was also
I came here 26 years ago, so that I caught this part.
Yeah, that's also what the box. That's what the same box that the powdered milk came in. So it either said powdered milk or Tide on it. So I don't, probably were the same thing. They just changed the flavoring a little bit. But anyway, well, Yori, this has been fascinating. I know we didn't get on to too much of your stance on a lot of politics, but obviously you're on the right path. You're talking all the right things. We're talking about the history of the world and all of the different stuff going on in your district, and I think it's great what you've been doing. Very, very proud to have you on my show. We got a couple minutes here before we got to get you out of here.
Sure.
Give us a little bit of rundown on how we can find you, that kind of stuff.
Sure. The website, as I said, Jim, it's yuri4us.com, and there is some information. I wouldn't say it's everything about me that you would like to know. You're welcome to write an email, express your disagreement with certain points that I made. But I'm trying to stay. I'm down to earth guy, and I cook my stuff, my own food. I don't hunt my own fowl or game or animals. But I read books from time to time. I follow politics, and basically I got important thing to me is talking about the landmark events in biography. I started my stream, and I was pro President Trump big time. I was Republican before that. I had my radio program again in English here. But when time came, I said, listen, there's something will be happening in Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2021. I'll be there on your behalf. I'll tell you how it was.
Right.
So I put this ad on YouTube, not an ad, but a post on Facebook. And I said, listen, anybody wants to go there? I don't want. I hate to go there by myself. It's like 4 or 5 hour drive.
Right.
So if you want to come with me, I'll take you. If you want to take me, I'll go with you.
Right.
So the guy said, I have a bus. Let's get more people. Get there. 20-seater Mercedes. So we got on the bus, like 6 or 7 or 8 people. I don't even remember how many. So we went there and we spent some time there. It was very nice, very uplifting. Weather was very unpleasant.
Yeah, I was there as well. I got there, and it was it was a little rough. I was stood at about an inch of mud just in front of the Washington Monument, the obelisk there. So I was behind the sidewalk, but in front of the obelisk, across from Trump, and I did walk down there, and everything they talked about, the timelines are all wrong and all that stuff. So it's a mess. But anyway, finish your story.
Yeah. So no, that's all I want to say, because it's a big deal, kind of seeing this committee absolutely unlawful, unconstitutional, doing all this thing to promote themselves in the most shameful way. Because in this country, you can promote yourself honestly.
Right.
Be a good man and do good things and help your community and understand your community. Bring your troubles to the attention of those who can resolve it. Become a man who can resolve it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the thing to me. And I kind of naturally came to this political stance that I have right now, in terms of thinking about it, talking to people, thinking again, talking again. Doing something, trying to call this and that. In New York nowadays, people call me. Sometimes they think they confuse me for they like me. Sorry to say. I'm sorry for that.
They mistakenly like you. I get it.
Yeah, as a streamer, I still make jokes that are not appropriate for a politician and kind of detrimental. But they call me and they think they help me with immigration, help me with my granddaughter who got stuck in St. Petersburg. She wants to get out. Right. And I say, I cannot help you. Until the person is here, this country has no jurisdiction over this person. To be protected by American law, you have to come here, and then you get protected left and right. Right. Of course, because of the American taxpayer, by the way, because every piece of justice has a price tag on it.
Oh, it does, and it's usually on the back of the taxpayer. Well, Yuri, thank you so much for everything you're doing out there, sir. And I tell you what, we did have an audio issue for whatever reason, we were dropping some frames. So I'm going to have you back on the week after next, if you don't mind, and right before the election, if you'd like to come back. Would that be all right?
Give me a shout out anytime, Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
I
sir.
like it here.
Very good. That's awesome. And
nice furniture.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And if you want me to be on your show, let me know, and I'll come on yours as well. All right?
Sure, we'll do that.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. All right. Well, that was Yuri, and a great guy. I really do enjoy talking to him. It was nice to be able to have just a genuine conversation that was about, hey, we need to get this right. We need to do this right. We need to be these people. And what a fantastic conversation that we did there. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And I apologize for the frame rate drop. I am trying to work on my cable, and for whatever reason, we had no issues in the very beginning of the show for about first 10 minutes, and then everything just started dropping off. So I apologize for that. Donna, thank you, Donna, thank you for being here. And Carrie Heisman, thank you for your questions. Karen, thank you so much for being here as well. And Keenan, thank you so much for being here. We've got to get Yuri in the office. Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, Yuri's a great guy, and New York has the opportunity to have some really amazing people go in there and do some great things. But again, it's this mob mentality, this pack mentality, this guerrilla wars where we've got like silverback gorillas that want to, create havoc and just do all this destruction when we don't have to live in that life. But yet that's what we do to each other. We tear each other down, and that's not how it should be. But anyway, that, guys, we make sure that we have our heart in the right place. We make sure that we're doing the right thing inside of us so that the future looks amazing, because the future is a reflection of our heart now. And I want you guys to think about that for a second. This is very, 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 very pointed. What your heart is like, what your heart is now, the future is going to be a reflection of that. How you set things up now is how things will be going forward. So, guys, thank you so much for everything you guys are doing out there. Any questions or comments for me? Jim Price at thejimpriceshow.com is the email. Jim Price at thejimpriceshow.com is the email. Thejimpriceshow.com is the website. I am being shadow banned across everything, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, I get 500 to 600 views on CloudHub alone, and yet I'm just getting beat up everywhere else. They are tearing down my numbers. They're doing everything to keep me, repressed, and I do wish that they would just stop being a bunch of jerks. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for everything you guys are doing out there. You guys inspire me to be a better man every single day. Thank you so much. Guys, if you have questions or comments, like I said, get a hold of me. Remember, the 10% we do for a neighbor, community, city, county, state, the federal government, the more you do for them, the less they have to do for you. So learn how to be selfless and not so damn selfish. The world will be a far, far better place. Remember, hold the line, hold fast, do not give up, do not give in. We will win. I promise you. I don't make promises I can't keep. I'm Jim Price, the Jim Price Show Daily Update. You guys all be good to each other out there, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.